And we're continuing this interview at the beautiful home of Will and Will Henry. And the funny thing is, tell us, the name of this beautiful home that you have bought here is actually...
It's the Henry House. So the Henry family, who are like Henry Brick Co.
Right, very prominent.
They bought the house in the 1940s, and they lived here up until... I want to say it was 2010s or so.
Yeah.
And then it went through several different owners. And the proper name of the full name of the house is the Tate Henry House.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The Tate family were the ones who built most of the house that you see today.
And as you were explaining, this house has been built in segments or in sections.
I think so.
Phases.
Phases. So we had an architectural historian who came and talked about the house a bit, and a lot of it's just theory right now, and I've been trying to get the documents to prove it. But the current theory is the house was built in 3 phases, one in the 1890s, one in the 1920s, and one in the 1940s, 50s, 60s.
That's pretty amazing.
And these phases might be pretty lengthy of, the Tate family in the 1920s, and they added things over a decade or 2 decades. The Henry family buys it, and then they add things over 60 years.
Right.
So those phases, even though they might be a 40-year-long phase or however long, that's still one phase.
Right.
The early 1890s phase is the one that I've been trying to figure out if there's any proof for it. The architectural historian we brought up sort of indicated that there were elements of the house that looked like they could be that period, but I haven't found any documentation. The sellers who sold us the house said that they found documentation that linked it back to 1898, but I don't know where they found it, and I haven't found it yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying.
Yeah, and being what you are, that documentation is all important.
Yeah, it is, and I'm hopeful that I'm able to, pull those threads. Yeah. But even if I'm not able to ever really hit the mark on that, I've been learning so much just about Selma and the local community here, just by pulling on those threads.
Like, what have you learned about Selma just by learning about your house?
Like, by learning about this house, I was able to go in through a sort of like the history of a single person. So one of the early lawyers of Selma was named Heflin Berry, and he, he was a lawyer, then a judge, and later in his life he was buying and selling a property up in North Alabama. He was an early advocate for paving Highland. He had was an advocate to have the sidewalks put in along Highland. He was an advocate to build Edgewood Elementary. And he was the one who was filing the paperwork and pressing for this part of Selma to be incorporated into Selma City.
I mean, darn it, we don't even hear that name hardly at all.
Yeah, when he's buried at Live Oak, and he's got a very simple headstone, and it's just been by pulling the threads of other names and things related to the house, I happened across him, and he was a very colorful figure. And
that's amazing.
For me, it's just fascinating to be able to get into that very individual level of history and extrapolate it back out to my home or to Cahawba or to what have you. And there are some ties in the articles I was finding that kind of tie back to Cahawba too. Really? A lot of the time period kind of matches up to when a lot of Cahawba is being sold off and the materials are being used in other places.
Right.
One of the articles from the 1980s says the porch is actually of our house is older than Selma itself.
Oh, really?
And the only way that I can imagine that would be possible is if that brick was from somewhere else, like Cahawba. That's all very anecdotal and tangential, and no way to prove anything like that. But
it's a viable theory that you could work under.
It's a possibility, and it's a starting point.
And there's a lot of buildings in town, I'm sure you're finding out, that are from Cahawba.
Yeah.
Or at least the materials.
Yeah, the materials, and in some cases just the whole building.
Have you ever gone downtown yet? And Our Lady Queen of Peace Church. Mm-hmm. The church itself was built from the rubble of the arsenal, but St. Andrew's Hall, which is right next to it, when we first got into, why is that house facing the wrong way? Because the front of the house is facing the church, the back of the house is to the street. And finally I found out that house was originally at Cahawba. It was dismantled and brought there to be St. Andrew's Hall. And of course, it made sense to face the front of it towards the church.
Yeah.
And those kind of neat little things, what you're finding out about this house, is one of the things that makes history so interesting. And you sit in the classroom all day long and listen to your teacher, read your book, and the kids get turned off to history. This is what makes history alive and makes it real. And I think some of the things you've been telling me, man, there are going to be some folks really falling in love with history, especially of our area.
Yeah, and the history of Selma is sort of intrinsically tied to Cahawba.
Yeah.
Cahawba's history is intrinsically tied to Orville, and all of it is intrinsically tied to the history of Alabama in general.
Exactly.
When you start diving into the very micro level histories that are going on here, and I'm not a historian, I'm an archaeologist, which is a different sort of skill set.
Certainly.
There's a lot of overlap for sure, but it's a different skill set. But when you start diving into and pulling on those threads, you just are able to learn a lot more about the general atmosphere of what's going on at that time.
Have you found any surprises?
So many. I mean, like with this house or in
this house.
So, I mean, just yesterday we had a guy come up and hook up our security, and we had these historic door chimes.
Oh, wow.
And they hadn't been working for who knows how long.
Right.
And he was sitting there playing with the wires to hook up our new doorbell, security doorbell, and he started just bzz, bzz, and then it started chiming, and I was just tickled pink to know that they weren't working just because it wasn't wired right for the last several owners.
Golly,
so
that's amazing.
When I found out that they did function, I was just like, make that happen, keep it going.
Yeah, that's cool. That's especially historic door chimes.
Yeah,
we'll have to get some video of that and have them play, and I'll drop it in right here. Here we go. Now we heard the door chimes.
Yeah, but they're very cool, and every day, Jen and I are finding something out about this house. It's just, I mean, we're going to spend a lifetime learning about the intricacies of this.
And
house.
that's one of the reasons why I thought it was cool to finish or complete or continue the interview with you here. You have bought an amazing home that it's going to take you a lifetime to learn about this house. But your intention is to be here for a long time. You're not just coming into Selma and to Cahawba as a stepping stone. You're planning on being here for a while.
Yeah, I mean, when I initially applied to be the director at Cahawba, they brought me out it was all sort of on a whim. Linda Derry just said, hey, you should apply, and I did. I didn't know anything about Cahawba. Never been here before, nothing. And I applied, and then I had my interview at Cahawba. I took one step out of the truck, just sort of looked around and said, I'm going to be here for 35 years. I'm going to spend my whole career here. And I fully intend on dying in this house if I can.
That's awesome. Well, no, that's not awesome.
Keep that up.
Awesome. We had it right the first time.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's awesome. You're going to be here hopefully a lot longer than 35 years. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Well, now, I don't want to stop talking to you. But there's a beautiful lady in the room that is your fiance, and she's moved here with you and has some really cool things that she wants to do here also. And I would love, Jen, to speak with you, if you don't mind, about what your plans are. So hold on, we're gonna meet Jen Wright. I'm now joined by Jen Wright, who is Will's fiance. And I really, that's something you were just telling me, a really cool story. Tell us a little bit about this really awesome ring that Will gave to you.
So William and I met in Romania on an archaeological excavation, and one of the artifacts found on this excavation at this site was a ring. It was a ring meant for a baby, but it's always a really big deal when you find anything like jewelry, anything intact like that. So anyway, he decided to. We know people, he knows people in Romania. He knew somebody who can do replica jewelry. So use the actual methods that the Romans would use to create jewelry or metal objects. And so Will had a replica of that baby ring sized up for my finger.
Right.
And that's the ring that he used to propose. So it is
cool.
a replica down to, it's the same, it's silver, like the ring we found, same design, and it was used, the same methods that the Romans would have used to craft a ring.
That ring right there probably means more than
absolutely.
any fancy big diamond or anything that traditionally people would do.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's a lot easier to manage too, because like having a big stone and scratching myself or furniture or something.
Yeah.
So
or worrying about losing it.
Or losing it, yeah.
I mean, everybody's worried about losing a big stone. I'd worry about losing that, but that means more.
Oh, and it does. It does. It has a lot of meaning, and it's got a good story.
That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. A good story. And that brings me to you. Will, I did not know it until this afternoon. You two are an archaeologist, and you tend to lean more towards historian.
Yes. So my background is in history. So I graduated from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. So I'm originally from Huntsville.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm an Alabama girl. Definitely, the move down to Selma has been really nice because Huntsville's gotten so big. Huntsville's gotten really big, and it's losing a lot of. Okay, I'll put it this way: there are growing pains. There are growing pains,
right.
and
that small town atmosphere
is not really present anymore. So it's
the other thing that I love about this area, and I bet you're going to find interesting too, is the history around here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I have not done as much research as Will has put in, because I'm still trying to get moved into a house and get settled. Before I left Huntsville, I was working as a cultural resource manager on Redstone Arsenal. It was anything of cultural significance on Redstone Arsenal.
Right.
I was in charge of protecting and maintaining it. And a lot of it was about Warner von Braun.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
A lot of it was due to the World War II significance of Redstone.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there were also a lot of the native sites, and so it was a lot of there were over. When I left, there were over 1,000 archaeological sites on Redstone Arsenal.
On just Redstone.
On Redstone.
I didn't realize there were that many on Redstone.
Yeah, a lot of it was, over 10,000 years of history because of all the Native American sites.
Yeah.
So it just littered with it. So I was ready for a bit of a slower pace.
But you say a slower pace, but you've got some ideas that may change that gear shift real quick.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think about what am I going to do here, and what I want to be able to make my own schedule and be able to have a little bit more control over what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And so the idea of buying this house, I had very big feelings about buying this house. William had to do a lot of convincing on me to buy this house, because buying a historic home, I already knew. I have worked with historic homes in the past, and so I knew that, has the plumbing been updated? Has the electrical been updated? There's so much money that goes into maintaining.
You ever seen the movie The Money Pit?
Yeah. So there's so much that goes into it, and then there's the added aspect that he and I, when it comes to cultural resources, so that's historic homes, that's archaeological sites, etc. We know that there is historical significance, and that adds that added weight of it is our responsibility.
Preserve it.
We are caretakers. We are caretakers of this home. It is more than just property that I know on paper it's property that we own, but as from an emotional standpoint, from a professional standpoint, this is a building that
resource.
It is. Yeah. It is. I guess to add on top of that, then the architectural side of it, it is a Greco-Roman style house with the big columns and all of that, and that style was introduced into the United States very early on. There's a reason why buildings of authority and power usually have the columns. So you think of like the Capitol building, you think of the White House. That architectural style is supposed to be imposing, and it is supposed to be threatening. Threatening is authority. It is supposed to be a place where you are to be intimidated by it, and that's not me.
Right.
That's not me.
I can see.
That's not me as a person. And so part of buying this house, part of the big feelings I was having was, I don't want people to feel as though they can't be comfortable in this house.
Sure.
So part of kind of the deal we kind of came up with, because I was like, okay, if we're buying this house, there are a lot of things about it that we're going to have to address, from just maintaining it, but also this is a cultural resource. And again, on paper we own the house, but from an ethical perspective, we see that this house is belonging to Selma. We see this house is a part of Selma. It is part of Selma's history, and we need to make it accessible. So how do we make this house, how do we make our home accessible to the public? So it felt like bed and breakfast.
That's an awesome idea.
Bed and breakfast. So at least that's going to be our first stepping stone into possibly finding other ways to use this house in order to benefit Selma. It is a part of the community. It has been here long before us and will hopefully be here long after us. Yeah.
And like I was telling Will, if you can bring people personal into a piece of history, and they see it and touch it and feel it and taste it and smell it, then it becomes more personal, and they're more interested in history, and they'll too go and start wanting to preserve
exactly
and keep that historical story going.
Yeah, and that's always the shame. When we're talking about the bathrooms, that's been a contentious subject between Will and I.
Those bathrooms are awesome.
The bathrooms were built in either the 40s or the 50s, and it definitely has that very iconic style of the subway tile and using these bright colors. Are those the personal choices I would have made? The personal aesthetic?
Right.
Those are not the colors I would have chosen. Those are not the style. But at the same time, though I don't, though those were not the aesthetic choices I would have made, I do want to respect that this is, it's a part of the history of the home.
Exactly.
And that's why I don't, I want to try to preserve those bathrooms as much as I can, or for as long as we can. Because it's a page in the book of this house.
Right. And no matter how you view it, you may hate it and it may be tacky to you, but it's the story of this house, which is the story of the history of this area.
Exactly. And so that's why I see making any changes to this home, and we're very conscious of that. Any change that we make, we are possibly editing or tearing out a page of the history of this home, and so we want to make sure that any choices that we're making, we are taking into consideration how is it changing the story of this house.
That's cool. I like that. I'm pleased to hear that, and I'm also pleased to hear your plans to make this something that's accessible. Do you have a time frame? I guess it's kind of early in the.
As far as the time frame for a bed and breakfast, I could not tell you, because a lot of it's going to be. I've just been going through room to room, and I'm trying to take.
You still got to learn the house.
I still have to learn the house. Still have to learn the house. Still have to get furniture in here, and I want to figure out what needs to be addressed, what needs to be fixed. What can be done now, what can be done later, and kind of move from there. I'm still trying to get a handle on what are the quirks. What are the quirks? Get to know the house a little bit more before I start inviting people, and so I can have a bit of a measure on things.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to Selma.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for spending some time with me. It's been a joy to talk to you.
All right.
Will was right.
Will was right?
Yeah, you'd be a good interview. You'd be a great interview.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay.